Welcome to Check the Gate, hosted by the Northeast Filmmakers Lab, taking place October 15th through 17th, 2021. Applications now open for filmmakers, works in progress, screenplays, short, feature, documentaries, new media, animations, episodic programming. Visit our website at cinemaexchange.org. My name is Mike Camoin. I am your host for Check the Gate, also the founding director of the Northeast Filmmakers Lab. I'm also an independent filmmaker. Today's featured guest, Michael McCray, is the co-founder of the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival, along with a special guest, Tom Borgers, a whistleblower expert. We're delighted to have both of these gentlemen in just a few moments. But first, let's thank our sponsors, Josh Wines, ScrewMeUp.com, the revolutionary app for filmmakers, Price Chopper, Market 32, Albany Wine and Dine for the arts, and of course, Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange. Our mission is to support emerging filmmakers to complete and present their works in progress in a rapidly changing media landscape with help from industry experts in the lab process. Check the gate. For those of you who don't know the term, if you're on set, you may have heard this. When the gate is good, production moves forward. And with that, let's move forward. Starting off with a video about the upcoming 10th Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival. Well, that looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to bring on our first guest, Michael McCray, co-founder, Whistleblower Summit. Welcome, Michael.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Hey, tell us why the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival?
Wow, Mike, I guess to tell the story of the summit, I kind of need to share with you a little information about my background. I
Hmm.
too am a whistleblower.
Hmm.
And years ago, I guess 25 years ago, I wound up blowing the whistle on waste, fraud, and abuse during the Clinton administration. My hometown was a small place in Arkansas. I tell people that the soil was rich, but the people were poor. And I wound up having the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. My governor ran for president, and I got to work for the White House. And so I started working in economic development. My background is corporate finance. And while I wasn't able to do everything that I wanted to do on the street, by working in the administration, I started to work in economic development. And my job was to go around the country and work on redeveloping the most underserved areas in the country. I tell people I got to visit the worst places to live in America. But it was a dream job because I was exposed to new things. I was working in technology. I was working in community development. And I discovered a fraud that was essentially $40 million worth of waste. And of course, I was offended because essentially they were stealing money from poor people. I blew the whistle and that changed my life forever. And so I'm one, when they talk about the hair club for men, I'm not only the founder, I'm a member. Well, yes, I am a whistleblower. And one of the things that helped me was attending a conference in Washington, D.C. And then it was called the Whistleblowers Week in Washington. And it actually saved my life. I was able to meet other individuals who were going through the same journey that I was, who had the same, they understood the battle. And so this was the first time because part of what you deal with is isolation. When you blow the whistle, everybody in your family blows the whistle. You never blow the whistle alone. And so based upon that, I found a community of like-minded people, like-minded individuals. And my way of giving back was to continue the conference. And so over the next, I guess, 10 years, It's
Wow.
grown from being a mutual support network, a symposium. All of this takes place on Capitol Hill. And we started to notice that while not everyone always likes whistleblowers, everyone seems to enjoy whistleblower movies. So whether it's Serpico, Aaron Brockovich, All the President's Men, we started to notice that a lot of
Oh,
people were starting to coalesce around the film.
some of
And
my
so,
favorite movies you just mentioned there.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
there's nothing like getting a group of whistleblowers together and watching All the President's Men
that's
because,
right.
yeah,
In
that's
Washington.
in Washington on Capitol Hill, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of how it sparked. That's how it grew. The other co-founder with me is Marcel Reed, and she wound up blowing the whistle on a multi-million-dollar embezzlement at Acorn. And so we had actually both been working for that organization, and
Hmm.
so she knew that I had a level of expertise in doing this, and she came to me, and I became the national spokesperson for that group, that Watchdog group, and that was known as the Acorn Eight. That's kind of where with your next guest, we wound up getting into the area of mortgage fraud. But
Hmm.
essentially, we came together to report this multi-million-dollar embezzlement, and together, as we fought Acorn, it eventually grew into the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival.
Wow. That's really quite a journey you've been on. One of the things I keep hearing is that there's this thing where when you become a whistleblower, there's actually some downsides to it. It's not all fun like in the movies. What did you experience, or what do you talk about at the summit in terms of being a whistleblower?
Well, Mike, it's mostly downside. It's nothing like you see on television. I tell people don't try this at home. But some of the lessons that you learn along the way, whistleblowing is really it's a test of character. It's a test of values. Because first is some people we always talk about why things are bad in society, things are messed up. But when you statistically speaking, we know that less than 5% of people have what it takes to blow the whistle, to do the right thing, and to have the courage to stick by it.
Mm.
I think the stats are roughly 50% of people see things that are wrong and witness wrongdoing on their jobs. About 30%, a third of the people will report it to their supervisors, but only take it that far. And then there's another 20% of people who will take it all the way and either go to Congress or go to the media. So when you do the math, you get a number that's something like 3%. 3% of people have what it takes to be a whistleblower.
Wow. Wow. So that's actually how it happens, and only 3%. And and the chances of winning, and I understand, is quite slim,
Yeah,
and often in these cases.
dismal as well. And that's part of the journey. That's one of the things that you learn. And generally speaking, Mike, most people, when they blow the whistle, they still have a faith in the system. Whistleblowers know that the deck is stacked against them, but they don't know the game's fixed. And so it's part of that becomes your realization as you deal with whether it's administrative court processes, even once you get into the court system, that what winds up happening is corruption extends much further than most people realize when they start the journey. And then they found out they're basically reacting to the things that happen to them. And so that's one of the reasons why community is so important, because I don't say your therapist won't believe you, but your therapist won't believe you. Or, it's one of those things that there's actually nothing that can be done. And so you're better off in a room full of people who actually understand your journey. I mean, when I went to the Washington Whistleblower Week in Washington, I was amazed because as I started to tell them my story, I spoke about being in front of this judge, Thomas Penfield Jackson. Now, you may or may not remember that name, but do you remember the guy that broke up Microsoft? Yeah, there was a judge who ruled that broke up Microsoft,
Oh,
and
okay.
the
There you
appellate
go.
court slapped him down and said that essentially he was a bad judge for a number of reasons, and essentially he was kind of a king on the throne. So when we say that judges are referees, Thomas Penfield Jackson said that he's much more than a referee; he's the game. My case was before
Hmm.
Judge Jackson, while
Well,
Microsoft.
and isn't there a saying too, like the refs don't want to be a part of the game?
Right.
Like you never like a good game is actually when you don't notice the refs.
Absolutely.
But this is a judge slash ref that
Right.
actually wants to be the game.
The game.
So
Right.
the
That
game. I get
that
you. I
that
get
was
you.
his
Okay.
attitude. And
Oh.
so yeah, so when I the thing is when I went to the first conference, when I said the name Thomas Penfield Jackson, you could just hear everybody go, oh. And so
Oh.
being in a room with people that I don't have to explain the story to,
Yes.
was just something that was just very gratifying. Because ultimately, I help people win. And sometimes winning is surviving. And you have to stop defining winning and losing by the outcome of your case. Because while I know a lot of people, and most people, when you look at the numbers, most people won't win a whistleblower case. Every whistleblower I know has an incredible story. And that's one of the things that we talk about at the summit. To take the story. I encourage people to, you may no longer, you were once a doctor, you blew the whistle on the medical profession, and now you no longer have hospital privileges. Or you were a lawyer, you blew the whistle, and now you're persona non grata in the courts. A lot of people struggle with losing a sense of identity if they can't practice their chosen professions. And the reality is your life just changed, it shifted. So you may no longer be that doctor. Now you may be an author. You may no longer be that lawyer. Now you may be a documentary filmmaker or investigative journalist. What I do is try to help people take their story and make something of that, because sometimes the story is the bigger asset than the case ever was. And so in that sense, all whistleblowers can be winners.
Wow. And that's so important. As a filmmaker, as I mentioned early on, films have a long life.
Mhm.
And sometimes, timing in the marketplace is also very important. So, look at something like Inconvenient Truth. You would think after that came out, well, climate change is over and a done deal and we'll fix it. It's like it takes a long time to actually still keep working on
Right,
climate change. So it's over a decade
right.
longer.
Well, with what you guys do with new media, I mean, well, it may not necessarily be a feature film. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's
Hmm.
a short, a documentary short. There's and now with self-publishing and do it yourself or on demand,
Hmm.
there's more. There are a million ways to tell a story, but and that's why when we got on the call, that's why having the story is kind of the important part. We can get the lights, we can get the sound, but we got to have the story. And so we deliver
Absolutely.
stories, and that's actually, Mike, that's one of the ways that we kind of evaluate our success. For most, it's interesting. For most film festivals, the well-being of the filmmaker is the highest priority. Not that we don't love filmmakers at the Whistleblower Summit, but our
Hmm.
focus has always been on the whistleblower. And so a lot of times what we look at is we've got whistleblowers who have stories. We're able to connect them to either journalists, broadcast journalists, writers, or filmmakers. So we have people who have projects in development. So when we're able to connect people to the industry and have them be able to tell their stories and make projects, we consider that a win.
Absolutely. That's huge. Now, I just want to draw a parallel. The Northeast Filmmakers Lab. It's different than a film festival. It's one of those things when uh, this came out of my journey into Rotterdam overseas. And what I found what they do in Europe really well is they get like-minded people together, they give them something to drink, and all of a sudden they start to help each other in this lab process. And the exchange there is not just with the industry expert, but it's with each other. And so there's this synergy that takes place. Is that something that you've noticed has grown, and how has the summit slash film festival evolved from year one to year 10 coming up?
That's a great question. How has it evolved? The first year, the big deal was who would think that whistleblowers had a conference? Who would ever think that they would get together? Did you know this is Washington? This is Whistleblowers Week. So that was the first thing. But the story broke on Fox News and was picked up by the New York Times. The second year, the big deal was, could you do it again? The character of the organization was reflected in the conference. So if you had like Government Accountability Project, they're very policy oriented. And so the summit took on it felt like a lobby day. You had the No Fear Coalition did it one year, and there was very much more feel for civil rights because the No Fear Act was the first civil rights legislation in the 21st century. So what wound up happening when Marcel and I took it on, because we came out of the ACORN whistleblowing experience. ACORN, of course, is the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now. We are community organizers, and so we decided to organize the most unlikely community of all, the community of whistleblowers. And so the summit now takes on the feel of what community organizers do. And of course, we decided not only to do policy, but to bring in popular culture. So of course, every year we have symposiums, we have workshops and panels. There's a luncheon on National Whistleblower Day. Most people don't know there's a National Whistleblower Day. There is a National Whistleblowers Day. That day is July 30th. And word whistleblower began being used roughly in the 70s around post-Watergate and Ralph Nader's Unsafe at Any Speed. The first law that protects whistleblowers was passed by the Continental Congress, and it's essentially a part of the First Amendment. It essentially says that it's every citizen's duty to report to Congress wrongdoing by the government. So whistleblowing is actually a form of patriotism. You can always talk about, Paul Revere, the British are coming, the British are coming. That's an act of whistleblowing.
Your dates are July 23rd.
So we're still the week of the 16th, but it's July 20th. It starts that Friday. We open that Friday.
Oh, okay. All right. Through August 1st?
Through August 1st, and we close the following Sunday.
Okay, great. Now, this is a great time for us to segue and introduce our next guest, Tom Borgers, who is, as we said, a whistleblower expert. He's a Wall Street banker, a fraud specialist. He's also the executive producer of a documentary called Scared to Debt on America's student loan debt crisis. He's worked closely with whistleblowers, trained whistleblowers, was appointed by President Obama to investigate the mortgage lending crisis of 2008, and also can probably tell us a little bit about the Bernie Madoff case. Tom, thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Mike, and glad to meet the other Mike.
Yeah, anything strike out at you, Tom, about what Michael was saying about his background? Anything ring true for whistleblowers in your experience?
A lot of it does. And, when I was appointed to Congress and the president as the senior investigator, and the very last resume I put in was my own. And they told me, when can you get here? And I said, tomorrow. And so when there was only a handful of us in the commission at that time. And my boss asked me, well, since you're, a seasoned banker, investigator, CFE, and so on, what would you do? And the very first things out of my mouth was, I want to have access to all the whistleblower complaints in the United States that are being looked at by the federal government. So I got
all of them, as in beyond just the mortgage lending crisis, everything?
We had subpoena power to get anything. So, eventually I had to focus on certain banks and others, but that was the first thing that I did was to request from the government, okay, give me access to all the whistleblower complaints. And I had other powers too. But it was amazing what I saw, and I was just one person. And it was a long journey, but I've been working with whistleblowers since I was appointed as senior investigator in charge at the FDIC during the S&L and banking crisis. And so since 1990, I started working with whistleblowers and informants and others that helped me, recover money for the U.S. government, and to also, when the FBI works with me, to indict and convict, these wrongdoers. So it was a long journey, but it was a quick journey from 2009, 10, and 11 when we gave our report to Congress. But this, as Mike says about his knowledge about whistleblowers, there's so many different stories out there. But one of the stories is you got to find the right attorney to help you. The worst thing a whistleblower does is hire any attorney, but you got to get a specialist in whistleblower types of cases. You don't go around the corner and knock on your neighbor's door who's an attorney, a real estate attorney, say, hey, listen, can you help me with my whistleblower case? No, you got it's and then you have to find out whether or not that law firm has the capabilities to help you. Because if the U.S. government doesn't pick up your case, then your attorney or law firm has to pick up the case. And most law firms would not pick up a case because it costs millions of dollars to on a major whistleblower complaint. So you have to find the right law firm right away. And as we all know, 96% of all whistleblowers never make any money. They go bankrupt, or they never work again in their field. So there's a lot of issues that it's more than just guts. Yeah, there's a lot of hard issues that I've seen over the years.
Tom, I want to bring Michael back in and just see, Michael, what about Tom that he's sharing about? First off, is it's really important to get a good lawyer who knows how to help represent you. Are these some of the things that you talk about at the Whistleblower Summit?
One of the most interesting things about whistleblowers that we meet is that you don't wake up one morning and decide that I want to blow the whistle. It tends not to. I mean, that's a rarity. That tends not to happen. Generally speaking, what happens is, a lot of times people think that whistleblowers are, what people will tell you is that whistleblowers are problem employees, and they've got an axe to grind, and that's why they blow the whistle. But it's really just the opposite. Your whistleblowers are usually your good employees, and they're the ones that believe in the system, and they see something wrong, and they actually believe that the organization will fix it. The whistleblower believes that they will be rewarded for reporting the wrongdoing to the supervisors. And what happens is, as soon as you identify the problem and that you're willing to say something about it, you now become a threat to the organization or to the managers that were doing the wrongdoing. So now you've identified yourself as a threat. And I tell people that really all it takes to become a whistleblower is to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And what will happen is you can set forth a chain reaction that ultimately will wind up dealing with retaliation. And then you wind up blowing the whistle to defend yourself from the retaliation. So I tell corporations that bad managers make good employees blow the whistle. And so now you get thrust into this thing where your world has just gotten turned upside down. And if you don't know who to call, you don't know what type of assistance to seek, you don't know what type of attorneys to get, or the public interest law firms that work in the field. These are things that you need to know before you blow the whistle. Is who is the Government Accountability Project? Who is the National Whistleblower Center? What is Taxpayers Against Fraud? What is the Project on Government Oversight? These are organizations that are in the field they're major nonprofit organizations, major NGOs that work with whistleblowers and on whistleblower cases. And it's these types of connections. Not to mention, it's good to know a good investigative reporter. It's good to know how to react to the media. It's essential to know what to say and what not to say to a reporter. We built the film festival around that.
So that segues back to Tom, who, as I mentioned, is the executive producer on a documentary that I'm also working on the student loan debt crisis. It sounds like the summit could be very helpful to filmmakers who are trying to, create these programs that are out to do good by, changing things that need to be changed or looked at. And is that something that the festival piece of it strives to help filmmakers and producers like Tom?
How we got to the festival was as a part of the summit itself. We used to have whistleblower night, movie night with the whistleblowers. And so it started off with us gathering at the bar, watching Aaron Brockovich, having a couple beers, and it was a social gathering. And then after a while, we thought that, man, we should, you can only watch, you can only watch Serpico so many times. Then we got to the point where we decided that let's use the platform to identify other films, other documentary filmmakers that we think that are also important that might not have a platform and people didn't know. So then we started to curate the films, and we would invite filmmakers to screen on Capitol Hill at the summit. And lo and behold, Mike, we found filmmakers coming to us wanting to screen at the summit. And so then we thought, wow, this whole film thing may be the direction to go in. We wound up having pre-screened some movies for Hollywood. I think Participant Media came and pre-screened some movies for us, and we wound up making connections in the industry, and the film festival grew out of that.
All these whistleblowers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're students, they're teachers, and so on. Their lives are being taken away from them, and it's just this is the first case I've ever been involved with that the people in the United States turn the other way, but we have 45 million people in different degrees of how this has impacted their lives, and so it's a great idea to incorporate them with your film festival, Mike, because there's only $1.7 trillion of wrongdoing going on with student loans, but no one cares. 45 million people, that's a lot of people. That's more than how many Arkansas, right? But this is the first time that I couldn't get any traction. And we have all these people on tape, and they're telling us their stories, but these are the 45 million whistleblowers that would love to get some, presence at your, film festival, because they have real stories, but no one wants to shed their tell their stories except us.
Well, Tom, that's one of the reasons that we have the summit, is to create a platform where filmmakers can do their thing, and where whistleblowers and truly the advocates, because a lot of times it's I'm a whistleblower, but I'm also an advocate, and we really focus on the advocacy because that's what keeps stuff fresh, relevant. That's what attracts the news. That's what attracts the journalists. I can tell you a sob story, but I better make it funny. I better make it entertaining. It would be great if I had a happy ending, or at least if I can leave you with some high note, because other than that, you got a lot of people in a room slitting their wrists. And so I understand that I need to serve an audience, and I do my best with everything I say, even no matter how dire it gets, joy comes in the morning. Congressional people will thank you is during the summit luncheon. That it's some recognition. It's something that the other whistleblowers know what you're going through, but there's actually some level of appreciation, and that's what I'm saying. It's hard, and it truly can be a life-saving event.
How can people learn more, Michael, about the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival, which is July 23rd through August 1st?
Yep. The simplest way is to go to www.whistleblowersummit.com. Whistleblowersummit.com. That's the website to the summit itself, and it also links to the film festival.
The summit and the film festival. So is it panel discussions, talks, plus screenings, right, plus discussions, things like that?
Whistleblower Summit itself is always free. And we do that because it's a life-saving and a life-affirming event. What our deal is that if you can get to Washington, you can come and be connected to a network of people who understand what you're going through, and hopefully may be able to provide you, if not relief, some assistance. Now, the film festival part is a little different because that's more, popular culture. So there's their fees for the to screen the movies and to participate in that way. But the summit itself is free, and it will always be free for that reason. Not only for the fact that when you're on Capitol Hill, you can't charge people to go to Congress anyway. So it's something that we do, and it allows people to come out. And what generally happens is we have more participation from the DMV, from Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. But by being virtual, we're going to be able to take the audience further and have more people be able to get just a taste of the summit. And so we're going to have virtual panels, Zoom panels, where we'll still continue to talk about all the wonky stuff and the policy, but then you'll also be able to screen the films during the rest of the day. So it's going to be a combination of the panel discussions, and we're also going to have some filmmaker workshops as well this year. So it'll be very well-rounded. It'll definitely be a joy to produce, but hopefully a joy to watch.
When you're a typical whistleblower, you have one person, yourself. But with this type of fraud that's going on with the student loans, you have 45 million other people that are holding your hand. You know, some of them are not hit as bad as you, but there's strength in numbers. And that's the most important thing, the difference between a single whistleblower and a whole class action of whistleblowers. We have to associate ourselves with the right people, and you have been over the years, Mike.
Well, and it sounds like the summit is going to be a fun, exciting place. I know I'm going to sign up. It's free, and love to participate in it. We're running out of time, so Michael, any last words, any bit of advice that you might want to give to anybody considering coming to the Whistleblower Summit, or has a case or an idea for a screenplay or podcast or anything like that?
Wow, Mike,
Any
that's so
last bit of
broad.
advice?
But what I'll say this is that understanding for people who are whistleblowers or maybe contemplating being a whistleblower, the act of whistleblowing can be a very life-altering decision. What's hilarious to me, Mike, is that Serpico does not like the term whistleblower. He prefers lamplighter. But one of the things that we've been trying to do is really to rebrand whistleblowing so that people understand that it's truly an act of courage and patriotism. And so that just tells you how bad the moniker. When you hear the word whistleblower, if you look it up, there are 30 pejoratives. You know, from rat, sneak, rat, think, snitch, tattletale, whatever. But we're trying to reclaim the term, and it's funny because sometimes we have problems with sponsors that they love everything we're doing. They want us to change the name. But that's the whole point.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be ashamed about, okay? The whistleblowers are actually the good guys. And so that's one thing I'll leave people with. And in terms of the filmmakers, this is a wonderful place to interact. If you have a powerful story, we're a place that will help you give your vision a platform. If you're looking for some of the most compelling stories in the country, it's a place where you can meet new protagonists and shop your deals or shop new deals, and you may be the producer of the next, Frank Serpico or the next Jeffrey Wagner. You may find them at the Whistleblower Summit. And so it's come one, come all, from authors and publishers, filmmakers, we got it all, even investigative journalists. It's a one place where they all come together. We are the intersection of policy, entertainment, and law. So please come do what you can. Come visit us, and I'm sure you'll be happy you did.
It was an honor. Thank you, Michael McCray. Thank you, Tom Borgers, for being on Check the Gate. I know I'm gonna sign up and attend the Whistleblower Summit and Film Festival. It sounds like there's a lot to be gained there for those of us who are making documentaries and feature films and wanting to tell the story of things that need to be uncovered to help us, improve our society. So thank you again, Michael, and thank you, Tom. And again, the website is whistleblowersummit.com, July 23rd through August 1st. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Josh Wines. Check out crewmeup.com, the revolutionary app for filmmakers. Price Chopper Market 32, Albany Wine and Dine for the arts, and of course, Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange. Filmmakers, don't forget, submit your films, works in progress to the 8th edition of the Northeast Filmmakers Lab. Find out more on cinemaexchange.org or filmfreeway.com. Until next time, be well, stay healthy, stay connected. This is Mike Camoin for Check the Gate. Our gate is good. Let's move on, people. And thanks for watching.